Hello, I'm Sandy Walden of Serenity, your grief coach. At the time of this recording, it's June 5th, 2020. I live in the Midwest of the US. Something keeps going through my head lately, and I've touched on it before, but this morning I felt like I really wanted to talk about it. What might healing look like? The truth is, now I focus on grief. That's how I work with people to work and process their grief in safe, healthy ways so that they can heal. And it matters. We're talking about being at different points of this pandemic of the virus. Nobody really is able to explain to me exactly where we are. We're also in the midst of horrible experiences for people of color. I hope and pray that things are better than they were when my grandparents were my age, but that doesn't mean it's anywhere near as good as it should be. There are wounds. There's damage being done on a daily, hourly, minute-by-minute basis. What might healing look like? For all of these things, when I think of being in deepest grief, when my son died, if somebody had said, just get over it, just put it behind you and let's move on fresh, that would have made, fortunately no one said that to me, and I couldn't have hurt them if they did, but that would have made the wounding worse. It would have been never acknowledged, never tended to. The pain, the damage would have been wrapped up, but it would have festered. It would have continued to fester. When I think of what's happening in our country and throughout the world, I hear people say, okay, you've got my attention, don't do this, let's just move on. But the truth is, there is deep, deep generational wounding. Many people have been living with horrendous conditions their lives, and so have their parents and their grandparents. Guess what? Even if they're the first person to experience this wound, it's deep, it's damage. It does us no good to say, okay, I'm paying attention, you're better. It's not that it doesn't do any good, it's not helpful, it's not cleaning the wound. Personally, I think we need to acknowledge the wounds. The most healing thing for me when I was grieving my son was for someone to say, I get it. I can't possibly understand in the same way, but your wounds matter. I'm sorry. How can I support you? That was allowing me to express what I felt, what I had experienced, what I was experiencing in that moment. Telling someone to sit down and shut up and just get over it makes things worse. This is across the board for all wounds and healing. We have to expose the damage. We have to see and acknowledge the damage, because we can't heal until we do. Another way to look at this, let's put it in really physical terms that I bet every one of us can understand. What if I broke my leg? Maybe I've got bones sticking out and I'm a mess. I can't walk. For someone to tell me, okay, I get it, you're hurt, but just walk it off and get over it, wouldn't help. I might wind up crippled, damaged for the rest of my life. Perhaps I would never walk again. If I did, I would certainly carry that wound forward in the most painful and obvious ways. What I would need to be healthier, hopefully healthy, to heal, would be for that wound to be acknowledged, for those bones to be set as well as possible, to have support as I heal. That support might be a cast, it might be crutches, it might be therapy, it might be somebody else opening a door for me as they say, I know you're hurt. Can I help you? It needs acknowledged. We have to know that there's a wound. We have to tend to that wound. If somebody has a physical wound that is something festering in their body, appendicitis, we don't just say get over it and move on. We know that that festering is poisoning them. It's hurting them. It needs to be removed. It needs to be cleared out. It needs to be acknowledged. And the healing needs to be lovingly supported. Again, I believe this goes in all aspects. When we're grieving, it's really helpful for someone to say, I can't understand exactly what this is like for you, but I want to help you get through it. That might be helping me to clean out closets, telling stories, crying, laughing. I don't know, because there are so many different aspects. When we talk about the stories, the truths, our history of racism, I can't know what it's like to be a person of color. For 59 years, I've been a very pale white person. I've lived a middle-class life. I've not lived in poverty. I'm not saying that all people live in poverty if you're a person of color. I'm saying that I have privilege of not experienced ostracism because of the color of my skin. I have the privilege of being accepted simply because of the color of my skin. I can't begin to know what it's like to be judged for the way my skin tone is. That's a deep, deep wound. Whether someone is living in poverty or great wealth or somewhere in between. Whether someone has had the benefit of a wonderful education or whether it's been withheld from them. Whether someone has had the opportunity and the support to do better. It's different for each of us. I truly believe that we are changing in the United States. Certainly not fast enough. Certainly not fast enough. But I do see change. I see support in ways that I didn't used to see on my TV or in the news feeds or in the newspaper, or that I didn't hear from people in the past. Is it enough? No, it's not. But we're doing better. That doesn't discount the wound that still exists and it continues to be given. Neither does it discount the support and the healing. I believe as we stand for one another as humans, as people who have been hurt deeply, as we share our compassion and our love, we begin to clear out the poison. We begin to set the bones, and healing can begin to happen. It's not overnight, and it's messy stuff. To clear that poison out of your system when you have appendicitis, you've got to be opened up and get the festering poison out. We have to acknowledge that it's there. We have to be aware that the wounds are there. when your grief is all you can think about. It's more hurtful for someone to ignore it than it is for them to acknowledge it. By ignoring, we increase the pain. We deepen the pain. We make it worse. I feel like we are in deep grief nationwide, and I see things happening all over the planet. And there's pain. But that pain is part of the clearing out of the poison, of the damage, the resetting of the bones, if you will. It's far from perfect. But I think we each have a part in this acknowledging, in this awareness, and in this healing. For me, for my part, I haven't done enough in the past. And I want to acknowledge and apologize for that. And this too goes across all aspects. For people who've grieved in the past, who've lost someone, I didn't understand. I didn't know that I wasn't showing up in the way you needed. When I lost my son, I was grateful, and I continue to be grateful that I had the tools of being a coach, a life coach, that helped me tremendously. But I also know how much I struggled when I didn't have people that I thought would be able to support me when they weren't able to show up because they simply didn't know. As we consider what's going on in our world with the pandemic, can we try and understand one another? Can we try and see one another's point of view? Can we lovingly accept the thoughts and the feelings others have without judgment? When we think about the deep, deep racial wounds that have been given to people of color in our country, and I don't even know to what extent, but I'm sure it's quite great in other parts of the world, can we acknowledge the damage and the wounds? Can we lovingly offer our support? The support looks different for everybody. For some, it's simply changing our attitude, realizing that whether it's intentional or not, we need to support other people. What has our language been like? What has our attitude been like? Let's acknowledge and appreciate the people around us for who they are, for their hearts. Let's work, and I mean really pay attention to and work at making sure all children have enough to eat healthy, nutritious food, that they have love and compassion and support in their lives. Let's support their parents at whatever stage they are, wherever they are in our communities. Let's acknowledge them and appreciate them and support them in their healing. It might be walking a protest. It might be appreciating someone's job, acknowledging them for the amazing work they do. Whether the person you're talking about is your doctor or your teacher or something else. Let's appreciate. Let's acknowledge. Maybe it's walking a protest. Maybe it's making a sign. So many things. Something I truly believe each and every one of us can do this very moment, later on today, every single day, is that we can pray for awareness and healing. We can quite deliberately send our energy towards that healing. Pardon me, I'm talking a lot and I'm dry. Some people say that doesn't matter, but I believe it does, because here's what I know. When I think nasty, hateful thoughts to something, to someone, about a situation, it changes my attitude. It changes the way I feel, and it certainly affects the way I treat other people and the way other people around me feel. The energy, the vibration matters tremendously. So something each one of us can do, and that I hope you do, and that you join me in doing, is offering prayer for deep, deep healing, for awareness. Let's see one another as fellow humans. I'm far from perfect. I'm very much a work in progress. But I believe I can do better. And I know you can too. Thank you for listening. I'm Sandy Walden, your grief coach and coach trainer. You can find me at sandywalden.com or visit my group over in Facebook. Let's have these rich conversations because they matter. Let's acknowledge our part in the wounding. Let's acknowledge our own wounds. And let's hold out hands of love and support to one another. Namaste.